Hi everyone, and welcome to this side event presented by the Population Council and the YP Foundation and a bunch of media partners who I will just introduce in a bit. Thank you everyone for joining in for this session. We are very excited to present this particular collaboration as a highlight and showcase at this conference. But before I get into the event, I just want to make some logistical announcements. First of all, apologies for starting about 10 minutes late. We had some tech issues that we were sorting out before we started. So thank you all for your patience. Along with that, the event is available with ISL Indian Sign Language interpretation, which you should be able to see on your screen right now. There is also Hindi language translation available throughout the event. So for those who want to access the Hindi language translation, click the globe on the side and select Hindi. ये इवेंट हिंदी भाषा में भी सबके लिए अवेलेबल है, तो जो भी आप में से इसको हिंदी में सुनना चाहते हैं, जो ग्लोब आपकी स्क्रीन पे नीचे बना हुआ है जूम के अंदर, उसको क्लिक करके अगर आप हिंदी सिलेक्ट करेंगे तो आप उसको हिंदी में सुन पाएंगे. उस ग्लोब में एक इंग्लिश लैंग्वेज का भी टैब है और कुछ स्पीकर्स हमारे हिंदी में बात कर रहे होंगे, तो उस टाइम पे जिनको इंग्लिश में सुनना है वो उसको इंग्लिश पे क्लिक कर लीजिए और अपने ओरिजिनल ऑडियो को म्यूट कर दीजिए उस टाइम पे. So for those who want to continue to access in English, you can stay in the main tab. But for those speakers who might be speaking in Hindi, at that time you might have to switch to the English tab on the interpretation, and the event will be accessible to English speakers who want to listen in English through the translation for a few speakers who will be speaking in Hindi. Please remember, this conference is a rejuvenating, happy space for deliberation, discussions, and learning together. Please engage with an open heart, with compassion and respect, even in disagreement. The discussions will engage with ideas and issues of gender, sexuality, desire, as well as prevention and prevention of discrimination and violence in an affirming manner. And so please know that there is a list of resources available in case you need to access that. We do not tolerate sexual harassment or any sexist, casteist, or any other kinds of slurs or demeaning language. Anybody who violates this norm will be removed from the meeting, so please bear that in mind. We have a anti-sexual harassment committee and we have a safeguarding committee, and their email IDs and contacts are available in the chat. For any concerns, please feel free to access those committees through the chat. Now, coming to the main point of this event, like I said, we are extremely happy, and as a moderator, this is an easy job for me because this is like being among friends who have been collaborators, who have been working with us for a few months now in this space. The event is to showcase this exciting and innovative kind of collaboration that we have taken up between a complete research agency, a research agency that has created in-depth data on the lives of adolescents, and creative agencies who are helping us translate that data into very exciting kinds of tools and materials to talk to young people and those who work with young people directly. This event, Stories from a Survey, essentially talks to us about how to create exciting, interesting, and youth-focused stories based on surveys that give us in-depth data on the lives of adolescents. And to do this with us, we as the YP Foundation have been just a facilitating agency in this mix, and I will very soon introduce everybody else who has been involved with this event. The 5 creative agencies that have been with us through this journey are Behanbox, Media, Chambal Media, Paradevi Pictures, Point of View, and Katkatha Puppet Arts Trust. All of these are agencies that I have personally admired, and I realize I forgot my own introduction. My name is Manak. I work with the YP Foundation, and in my excitement to introduce all of these agencies that I have been a big fan of for all these for a few years now, actually, I forgot to introduce myself. But the main focus of this event is on these agencies and their work. Along with the 5 creative media agencies, with us today is the Population Council, the agency that has started this all, that did the exciting survey, the Udaya study, and the Udaya project that has created valuable in-depth data about lives of adolescents in UP and Bihar that many of us in the development sector are using to actually engage with adolescents and their issues. I would go into the detailed introductions of all the speakers and the agencies that are with us today when they begin sharing. But to set this up, I just want to say that at the start, I would like to invite Dr. Sangram Kishor from the Population Council to share with us a little bit about why a research agency, a core research agency that is invested in creating data, thought it important to do creative work based on the media and the research that they are creating. Dr. Sangram Kishor Patel is a demographer and a public health researcher with 17 years of experience of working in the field of public health and on social issues. Dr. Patel is currently working as a technical lead in the Udaya project with the Population Council. And over years, Dr. Patel has worked extensively in the areas of reproductive and maternal health, adolescents, youth and gender, HIV, worked with marginalized populations on policy and program evaluations and survey and research in India, South Asia, and in African countries. Dr. Patel is a PhD in population science from IIPS, and he has a twin master's degree in statistics and population studies. He is perhaps the best person from the Population Council to speak to this Udaya study, introduce us to what the study is, and talk about why it is important for the Population Council to actually create research and data in the form of creative media products to engage with young people. So with no further wait, I would like to introduce and hand over to Dr. Patel to tell us about the Udaya study and why this creative media collaboration is an important piece for the Population Council. You have to unmute yourself, I think. Dr.
Okay. Thank you, Manak, and thanks everyone for joining this session. As Manak has rightly said about this Udaya project, so before going to the why we need this partnership with these leading agencies, before that I should say a few words on Udaya study. So then I'll go to why we'll go on for this communication and media products with these leading agencies. So as you know that there is scarcity of adolescent research and data, particularly on the longitudinal form in India as well as in many countries across the globe. If you know, there are 1.2 billion adolescents are there across the globe. And in India itself, there are 250 millions. So there are every fifth adolescent in the world is an adolescent from India. So looking at these contexts, as well as in 2015, if you see there is sustainable development goals emerged, and there is a requirement of many different goals, and including the life of the adolescent also. So looking at all these things, Population Council with the funding agency from Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and Packard Foundation thought about this idea, Udaya project. So Udaya stands for understanding the lives of adolescent and young adults. So this Udaya study is a unique longitudinal study of adolescent boys and girls in India, which was conducted in two largest states, Bihar and Uttar Pradesh, in 2015-16 and 2018-19. So why this Bihar and Uttar Pradesh was chosen? That is also a point to be thought about. So if you see that there are every fifth adolescent in India lives from the world, every fifth adolescent lives in the India. So if you see, then every 16 adolescent in the world and the fourth adolescent in India lives in UP and Bihar. So there is a largest bunch of populations, adolescent populations lives in these two biggest state of India. So this Udaya study gives an unique opportunity, and this study offers an unique opportunity to examine the adolescent life and their transition to adulthood, how they transition from their adolescent to adulthood. As well as this study also reveals patterns, trends in situation of adolescent 10 to 19 years, and highlights factors that enable their informed, healthy, and safe transition to adulthood. And there are wealth of data about the lives and issues of adolescent, particularly considering from the Udaya study. including these areas, there are education, work transition, learning outcomes, sexual and reproductive health, aspirations, agency, leadership, citizenship, gender, digital media, nutrition, violence, family planning, injuries, mental health, substance use, and program reach and impact. So these are the, besides this, there are other areas also we have covered. So just want to mention here that in wave 1, 2015-16, we have covered nearly more than 20,000 adolescents, which is the one of the largest large-scale survey in India. And in 2018-19, we followed more than 16,000 adolescents among whom we have covered in 2015-16. So coming back to the Manak questions, where we require a creative agencies for this project to go for this some creative ideas, some creative products from the finding of the Udaya study. So if you say the collaboration is an essential part of if any project, and nowadays many funding agencies and many partnership are going on across the globe also. So collaboration is an essential part for sharing knowledge and ideas to achieve a common goal. And the creative collaboration is very important to push the one project to a next level. And the creative ideas are really important to showcase the findings coming out of some of the surveys or projects. And creative agency are particularly are the important part of this initiative to develop and implement imaginative solution to the different problems and fulfill the gaps. And to increase the brand awareness also and better showcase the products and services, and ultimately increase the outreach as well as the long-term visibility of the whatever the findings are coming out of Udaya project. So we thought in that way, and then we collaborated with them. And another point I want to add here, what values actually this collaboration or this initiative brought out from the Udaya project. If you see earlier, there are a lack of research highlight on the media and communication product to enable a public engagement and discourse building based on the findings of these studies. So the Udaya study particularly focus on these things, and the Population Council try to find out the commission, media and communication product to enable public engagement and discourse building based on the insights from the findings coming out of the Udaya research for the local level engagement in Uttar Pradesh and Bihar. And in this initiative, we brought out nearly 37 products, and those products are also been disseminated in different online platform as well as some physical, some of the training, as well as we'll discuss with many organizations. Particularly just recent initiative, I will tell the products are really appreciated by the Bihar government's different departments, and they will going to use these products in their different programs and different things in coming years. So, and many of the stakeholders also have gone through these products, and they really appreciated these products coming out of this Udaya project. So I will just tell this partnership with these organizations, this communication and media organization were really appreciable, and we really appreciate their work, which has been coming out just in the media products or some audiovisual products, comic books, Jains or podcasts, and some other innovative ideas. So ultimately, what our objective was there, it has been achieved, and based on the evidence based on the Udaya projects, because these ideas or these products have put and narratives or the context to the Udaya findings, which was our main goal. And now we are thinking about through this, particularly this conference, this session also, that it should go to maximum people should aware of what is the findings are coming out from the Udaya study based on these communication and media products. And our idea also, we are now preparing a website also based on these findings coming out of this Udaya findings and help of these all the partners. And we'll put those in the Udaya website also in next 1 month. So we think that we have whatever our goal was there, it was coming. We are going to achieve those goals, and we have already achieved some of the goals, and definitely in coming months it will be achievable. So I will stop here, and now I'll leave it to Manak. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that great introduction into the Udaya study, as well as the media and creative works that have been done based on that. Like Dr. Patel was saying, I think we as an organization that works with young people have been really privileged to be in this set of organizations, in this collaboration as facilitators, who are able to learn from all of the work on deep research and analysis that the Pop Council has been doing, and all of the work on turning these into creative stories of young people and those who are connected with the lives of young people that the creative agencies have done. So for us, this has been a hugely exciting project. And I don't want to stand between us and the presentations by the creative partners in this project anymore. The format that we will follow for the event is that I would like to invite the partners who have been involved in creating these materials and these resources for us one by one to tell us a little bit about their process of going from research to creative storytelling, and also to tell us a little bit about what kinds of responses they have seen, and about also share what materials and what tools they have created to engage with youth and adolescents and their stakeholders based on the research that has come out from the Udaya project. So first of all, I would like to introduce Behanbox Media, the first creative partner to come and showcase their materials for us. From Behanbox, we have two people who are joining us. Bhanupriya, who is the founder of Behanbox, a digital multimedia publication for gender journalism, which produces deep evidence-driven reportage on women and gender-diverse persons in India. I don't know if you all already follow Behanbox on Instagram. If you don't, you should immediately go and follow Behanbox and see the exciting and really incisive stories that they've been putting out on diverse issues around, particularly around women and gender-diverse persons' lives in India. And Meera ji, who is a feminist journalist from Bundelkhand in Uttar Pradesh. She is the founder editor of Khabar, Lahariya, a grassroots media agency where she has worked for 20 years, and is also part of the Mahila Samakhya movement in Bundelkhand.
Hello.
Yeah. So over to Bhanupriya for the presentation.
Right. Thank you so much, Manak, for that very kind introduction. I would at the outset also like to say that this has been a collaborative project between Behanbox and Chitrakoot Collective, of which Meera ji is a representative. She's the founder of Chitrakoot. And they are a grassroots organization based in Chitrakoot, in the Bundelkhand region. And no, it has been, can I just start with saying what a privilege it has been for us at Behanbox, and I'm sure Chitrakoot, I speak for Chitrakoot Collective as well, to be engaged in creating these products. First of all, going through the insights of the survey, and then creating all these interesting products that we have been doing, and in the process we've learned so much about the lives of young people, adolescent people, and as I've said before, we work on women and gender diverse persons, but somehow this has been our first foray into working with young adults and adolescents, and it has been a great journey. So I'd like to ask the team to just flash our presentation introduction. Thank you very much. So what our project is called Sapnon Ka Haq. And what we wanted to do through this Sapnon Ka Haq project was to radically reimagine through the lives of, not us reimagining, but allow the young people to reimagine what their dreams and aspirations ought to be, and as a fundamental right. And what I mean by that is that a fundamental right that is universal, inalienable, and in some ways obligatory for the state and the society to ensure that these rights can be accessed by young people across class, caste, gender, religion, region, etc. Can we go on to the next slide, please? So what we made as part of this was a set of 2 products. One is a 6-part podcast series on the lives of young people in UP. The other product that we worked on was a set of 6 zines on various themes, about which I will talk about in a bit. Can we now go on to the 3rd slide, please? Right. So this is a set of zines that we produced, which are based around certain themes, a certain overarching theme in which we have tried to include data from the Udaya study on the corresponding themes as well. So, for example, we have we produced the zine on this young Dalit woman leader from Bundelkhand, and through this we looked at questions around citizenship, agency, and political participation of women, and participation, how young girls are participating in groups or taking part in groups. Similarly, there is the zine below that you see is about a young girl who is a baseball player, a sort of game that wasn't even understood in the rural parts of India, and a girl playing that was even more so. We also made a zine on use of a very creative one on the use of social media. So how do young people access social media? What do they really do on social media? Who is doing what? So we have a very urban understanding, but what do young people from rural India, semi-urban India, what are their social media habits like? Then there was a zine that we made, which was an output of a creative workshop that we did with this group called Sapne Walis, which is a very young bunch of girls who have traveled from Bihar and UP to be in this place for a few months to understand and learn new skills, very placement related. So we tried to understand through them their whole question of mobility, questions around how did they even reach from, say, a remote village in Bihar to all the way in Himachal Pradesh. How did their parents allow them? How did they negotiate that process of, trying to talk to their parents about the fact that they have to go and stay in a place for 9 odd months, and so on. The last zine that we're talking about is a zine centered around a very interesting thing, a very interesting phenomenon called Kishori Dals in Uttar Pradesh, where young girls especially form these little groups, and who then go on to form more groups that facilitate, all conversations around, mobility, around agency, around citizenship, around equity and equality and the difference between the two, and so on. And this is centered around this one particular girl who is using these Kishori dolls to facilitate this intergenerational change. And through this, we talk about all these themes that I just told you about, looking at the data that Udaya survey has put out. And in doing so, basically, the idea of doing all this is to understand how individual stories really sort of reflect in these data. So what we tried to look at was data and statistics, the lives of young people as an extension of these data and statistics. And therefore, we wanted to expand the idea and the universe of data to not just include statistics, but the lived experiences as they exist, as they play out in the society today. But also what we wanted to do through this project was also to bring out certain insights, both for policymakers Yes, but also for parents, for grandparents, for teachers, for everyone in the society that have some sort of interaction with young people, in facilitating that kind of dialogue, in which we are centering the voices of young people, through which we are able to understand them, in a much more easy manner. So they shouldn't have to work that hard to explain their aspirations and so on. Is it possible now to play the little trailer that we put out on the podcast?
को जो है बिना रोक टोक के बाहर आ जा सके हम लड़कियां, और जो है हमें अपने करियर के बारे में हम जो है खुद डिसीजन ले सके।
आप इतिहास पलटा कर देखो, इतिहास में उसी का नाम है जिन्होंने स्ट्रगल किया हो, जिन्होंने हिम्मत न हारी होकर के, जिन्होंने कुछ करने का ऑप्शन चुना हो।
देवी देवताओं को तो सभी लोग पूछते हैं, उन्होंने हमारे लिए क्या किया? कुछ नहीं किया।
तो लड़के कर सकते हैं, हम क्यों नहीं कर सकते हैं? हम लड़कियों में क्या है, पढ़ते लिखते हैं, काम करते हैं, बहुत सी लड़कियां भी जॉब करती हैं, पढ़ती लिखती हैं, अपना खुद ले सकती हैं।
Sorry, thank you very much. So through these were just glimpses of the 6 episodes of the podcast that we did on taking voices of young people, centered around the lives and stories of young people, some in Bundelkhand and some outside of it. And through this, we wanted to understand how they articulated aspirations, their aspiration, and what was the meaning of aspiration for them. And the useful insight we took away from doing this was that the meaning of aspiration for them was multiple. So yes, there was individual aspiration. Everyone wanted to be a pilot or a police officer or, doctor, teacher, so on and so forth. But there was a larger set of aspirations that we came across. And this was a very community aspiration. Like a lot of them, most of them said that what we want is, along with us, that there is freedom for other girls, freedom for other women, freedom to move around, freedom to own stuff, technology, and use social media, get jobs, get away from unpaid care work, and so on. So that was a very interesting insight that we found. Can we have the next slide, please? So just a bit about how we created these products. So essentially, these are all very ground up products. So they are stories that were part of that we went out looking out for, and we wanted to see how the data that we are talking about, how this was reflected in the lives of these young people. So for example, and what we also wanted to do was to look at both the extraordinary, the ordinary and also the extraordinary. So within their ordinary lives, what is the extraordinary that's happening? So for example, Suman, the young musician that we heard about, she started singing. When she started singing, who uses music as a tool for social change, when she started singing, her parents did not allow her, especially her father. And so what was the process like for her to have that chat with her father? What made her father give in? But also the larger question about how is she then using her own experience to have that intergenerational dialogue with other parents to allow that mobility and the freedom for young people. Also, one of the other questions that we wanted to look at was questions around, is agency a very conditional thing? So isn't it, and which is where we're going back to the earlier point that I made, the first point about how these are rights and have to be inalienable, in the sense that they have to come with your own personhood and therefore not gender-based and so on. So we wanted to understand whether agency was conditional, and what we found was, whether agency, whether you get the freedom to move or the freedom to use social media or possess a telephone or have a particular career of your choice, is it conditional on you achieving something or being a good person, or someone else coming and telling you कि हाँ अब हमने अपनी बेटी को जाने दिया, आप जाने दीजिए. So at what point will this become like a universal experience for young people? So these are some of the themes that we wanted to sort of look at through this data. And I'm now, can we have the next slide, please? So here are some of the themes that we talked about, which was about paid work, vocational training, how young people create their agency, how they're flipping gender norms, intergenerational dialogues, also around COVID and its impact. I am now going to, I'm going to allow Meera ji to talk about how the ground level experience and so on was. But as far as the aspiration, I want to leave you with a little thought about a little workshop we did with young girls, especially around 15th of August, to understand what their articulation of Azadi was. What does Azadi mean to them? And girls came up with, young women came up with so many interesting articulations of their Azadi, which, when we hear from, say, urban India, it doesn't seem that whatever, but the articulation from rural India and semi-rural India, I would like to read out one or two of these. So Nikita, an 18-year-old girl, says, मैं अपने रास्ते खुद तलाशना चाहती हूँ. When we asked her what आजादी means to her, मैं अपने रास्ते खुद तलाशना चाहती हूँ ताकि मुझे अपने अस्तित्व और स्वाभिमान से समझौता ना करना पड़े. But my favorite perhaps is Mandavi, who's an 18-year-old young person in Ayodhya district of UP, who said, मेरे परिवार और समाज का सहयोग हो मेरे सपनों को साकार करने के लिए, ये मेरे लिए आजादी है. And then she says, मैं तब तक आजाद नहीं हूँ जब तक कि सब एक भी लड़की कैद में है, भले ही उसकी बेड़ियां मेरी बेड़ियों से अलग हों. And that somehow kind of sums up this whole project for us in terms of, all these different themes that we looked at. So with that, I will hand it over to Meera ji to talk about the ground process. Thank you.
Thank you, Bhanu. हेलो सबको, मेरा नाम मीरा जाटो है और मैं एक नारीवादी पत्रकार हूँ और चित्रकूट कलेक्टिव की संस्थापक हूँ. सबसे पहले तो मैं एजेंट्स ऑफ इश्क और वाईपी फाउंडेशन को धन्यवाद देना चाहूंगी कि इस मंच पर वह हमें दोस्तों के बीच में बात रखने का मौका दिया है. ये बहुत अच्छा लगा है मुझे. वैसे तो भानुप्रिया ने आपको हमारे सपनों के सफर के बारे में, हक के बारे में बता दिया है. मैं कुछ ग्राउंड रिपोर्टिंग के बारे में आप लोगों के साथ बात कर अनुभव बांटना चाहती हूँ. तो हम आगे स्लाइड बढ़ाएं. तो जैसे कि जमीनी रिपोर्टिंग का जो हमारा अनुभव रहा है वो बहुत ही मुश्किल भरा रहा है. यह जो डेटा क्या चीज है इसको समझना और समझाना हमारे लिए बहुत ही बड़ा वो रहा है. हमने मतलब इस चीज को लेकर जो काम किया है, सैकड़ों संस्थाएं हैं जो काम करती हैं किशोर किशोरियों पर डाटा जैसे को लेकर के किसी ने काम नहीं किया. हमें इस काम को करने में बहुत ही मुश्किलें झेलनी पड़ी हैं. पहला तो ये कि मुझ जैसे उम्र के लोगों के साथ बच्चे बात नहीं करना चाहते थे, इसलिए हमने नई यंग पत्रकार को जोड़ा और उसके साथ मिलकर के बातचीत डाटा को लेकर बातचीत करना शुरू किया. तब जाकर के कुछ लोग जुड़ पाए हैं. उसमें भी इतनी ज्यादा हमें मुश्किलें आई हैं कि एक बार गए फिर किसी ने नहीं कहा, मतलब एक के बाद कई बार हमें जाना पड़ा है. तब लोगों ने बोलना शुरू किया है. लोगों का कहना था क्या होगा सपने बता करके, सपने क्यों बताना है हमें, क्यों हमें वो करना है, सपने बताने से हमें क्या मिल जाएगा। हमने अपनी जो रिपोर्टिंग की है वो ज्यादातर उत्तर प्रदेश और बिहार में की है। ग्रामीण जो क्षेत्र हैं जहाँ पर बहुत सारी समस्याएं होती हैं, चाहे वो बिजली नेटवर्क को लेकर ले लीजिए, चाहे वो जेंडर, जाति और सत्ता को लेकर हो, उस तरह के क्षेत्रों में जो हमने रिपोर्टिंग की है वहां पर बहुत ही अलग तरह की जो चीजें थी वो देखने को मिली है कि आगे स्लाइड हम बढ़ाएं प्लीज। तो जिस तरह से हम डेटा को कह रहे हैं कि जैसे कि जो लड़कियां हैं या लड़के हैं, जब हम बात कर रहे हैं, अगर हम सूरज भान जैसे लोगों का अनुभव बताएं कि उसने तो उससे जब हम कई बार मिले तो वो आंख में आंख भी नहीं मिला के बात करना चाह रहा था। वो कह रहा था क्या होगा सपने बता करके। और नगमा जैसे लड़की है जो हाई स्कूल बस पढ़ पाई है और वो आगे मतलब अपनी मौसी की लड़की को देखभाल कर रही थी और वो हीरोइन बनना चाह रही थी, लेकिन उन चीजों में बहुत ही दिक्कतें हो रही थी। जो बंधन था वो कहीं ना कहीं देखने को मिल रहा था। सोशल मीडिया की अगर हम बात करें तो लड़कियां जो सोशल मीडिया है, लड़कियों को पढ़ाई का स्तर तो बढ़ा है, लेकिन जो उनका परिवार का जो व्यवहार है वो बहुत ही अलग है। वो जो बंधन है परिवार का कि लड़कियों को आज भी वो सोशल मीडिया में जगह ना मिलना, उनको पढ़ाई के लिए तो मोबाइल है, उसको यूज कर सकती हैं। अगर हम अंजू का उदाहरण दें, आप स्लाइड आगे बढ़ाएंगे। अंजू का अगर हम उदाहरण दें तो अंजू करबी में रहती है, बहुत होनहार लड़की है और वो बहुत कुछ पढ़ना चाहती, पढ़ के आगे आई है, बहुत अपने स्कूल में टॉप है, लेकिन जहां पर सोशल मीडिया की बात आती है तो उसको सोशल मीडिया में अपना फेसबुक अकाउंट भी बनाना मना है, उसको वो नहीं बना सकती। जो आजादी मिलनी चाहिए वो लड़कियों को आजादी नहीं है। वो फेसबुक में अपनी बात किसी से, अपने दोस्त से नहीं कर सकती है, बात नहीं रख सकती। जबकि लड़कों को देखने को मिला है कि दीपक और हिमांशु जैसे लोग को देखा है कि उनके लिए कोई बंधन नहीं है, वो सोशल मीडिया को खूब यूज कर सकती हैं। बस दिक्कत उनको ये है कि लाइट की दिक्कत है, नेटवर्क की दिक्कत है या डाटा नहीं है, उसकी प्रॉब्लम है, लेकिन उनकी निगरानी कोई नहीं करता है। लड़कियों की निगरानी में हर समय परिवार के लोग लगे रहते हैं कि वो क्या कर रहे हैं। आगे केयर वर्क आगे बढ़ाएं, स्लाइड आगे बढ़ा। हाँ, केयर वर्क की अगर हम बात करें तो जो काम की जिम्मेदारी है वो ज्यादातर लड़कियों पे होती है। घर का जितना भी काम है वो लड़कियों पे ही पूरा बोझ दे दिया जाता है, लड़कियां ही सारा घर का काम करती हैं। जैसे कि प्राची, रेखा और मोनिका, जो कि अलग अलग तरह से ये लोग काम कर रही हैं। कोई पार्लर का काम कर रही हैं, कोई सिलाई का काम कर रही हैं, तो मतलब ये अपना परिवार का भी काम कर रही है, परिवार की आर्थिक स्थिति बढ़ाने का काम कर रही है। लेकिन आजादी और आराम की बात करें तो इनके लिए कोई जगह नहीं है, केवल इनके लिए काम है, जो कि लड़कों के लिए ये बंधन नहीं है। उनके लिए जगह मतलब समय ही समय है, वो किस समय क्या कर सकते हैं, क्योंकि उनको घर का काम नहीं करना है, उनको कुछ भी नहीं करना है, तो वो अपने मोबाइल में कुछ भी कर सकते हैं। पर इस तरह से जो काम का बंधन है वो लड़कियों पर ही है। ये प्रोजेक्ट हमें बहुत जरूरी लगा है। हमें नए युवाओं के अपने सपने, अपने बारे में खुलकर बताया है और सभी के कमेंट में लोगों ने जो बातें रखी हैं, जब हमने पॉडकास्ट और जीन तैयार किए और हमने व्हाट्सएप ग्रुप से या अलग अलग प्लेटफॉर्म से हमने लोगों तक भेजे हैं, तो लोगों को बहुत अच्छे लगे हैं। और बहुत लोगों ने बोला है कि इस तरह का जो प्रोजेक्ट है, जो डाटा है, कभी लोगों को नहीं मिला है और ये जो है तो मतलब अलग तरह से हमें सुनने को मिला है और बहुत ही अच्छा है, जिससे कि हम अपने इलाके के बारे में जान पाए हैं। और जिन बच्चों की हमने स्टोरी की थी, इंटरव्यू किए थे, उनको भी हमने भेजा था। तो बहुत लोगों ने बहुत ही अच्छा बोला कि पहली बार हमने इस तरह का देखा है। मोनिका सिंह ने तो क्या किया कि उसने अपनी स्टोरी को उठा करके तुरंत स्टेटस में लगा दिया और उसने बोला कि सारे उसके दोस्त उसको देखे, सुने और उसको रिप्लाई करें, तुरंत जवाब दे। मोनिका सिंह की माँ तो तुरंत मतलब उस स्टोरी को सुन करके एकदम भावुक होकर रो पड़ी। उसको उनका ये कहना था कि मतलब उन्होंने कभी नहीं सोचा था कि उनके सफर के बारे में कोई इस तरह से सुनाएगा। तो मतलब बहुत ही अच्छा लगा उन लोगों को और बहुत ही वो था। अन्य पत्रकारों ने भी बहुत कहा कि बहुत ही अच्छा था ये, और इस तरह से पहले कभी हमने नहीं सुना है। और आगे स्लाइड बढ़ाइए, आगे बढ़े। तो एक बार मैं फिर सबको थैंक यू बोलूंगी और बहुत अच्छा लगा कि आपने इस मंच में हमें शामिल किया है। और मैं इसको समाप्त करूंगी और एक गाने के साथ, जो साजे सपने के साथ हमने जीन वर्कशॉप की थी, तो उन्होंने अपने गाने से हमारा वो शुरू किया था और समाप्त किया था। तो आप साजे सपने की लड़कियों का एक गाना सुनिए। आगे वीडियो क्लिक कर दीजिए, आगे स्लाइड बढ़ाकर वीडियो क्लिक कर दीजिए। आगे वीडियो बढ़ा दीजिए, वीडियो चला दीजिए।
सॉरी, आई थिंक कोशिश कर रहे हैं वो वीडियो चलाने की, लेकिन उसमें आ नहीं पा रहा है। सम अपॉलॉजीज फॉर द टेक्निकल एरर in the prep. We will try to get this video link going in some way or the other, or we will try and put in a link in the chat where everybody can go and see the video directly. बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया, thank you so much Bhanupriya and Meera ji for this presentation and for laying out for us the whole journey of going from data insights and what kind of responses this work also elicited while you were in the process of doing it. So thank you so much for that. The next team I want to invite is Katkatha, Anurupa and Avinash from Katkatha Puppet Arts Trust. And I will say a little bit of history here, that I think about 15 years ago, I saw Anurupa and Katkatha team in performance, and I was like, wow, this is definitely an organization and a group that I want to work with at some point of time. And after so many years, this has been totally possible, and I'm really excited that they were part of this mix. Anurupa Roy is a puppeteer, puppet theatre director, and puppet designer. She is the founder and managing trustee of the Katkatha Puppet Arts Trust, a puppet theatre group based in Delhi, India since 1998. She has a diploma in puppet theatre from Dramatiska Institute for Film, TV, Drama and Radio at the University of Stockholm, and has been trained in the traditional glove puppetry from La Scuola della Guaratelle. I think I messed up that pronunciation completely, so I will say the translation, which is the School of Traditional Glove Theatre Puppetry. Anurupa has years of experience of creating really exciting and diverse forms of puppet theatre productions, and she has directed performances for Katkatha, TIE Company, National School of Drama, Jan Natya Manch, and is the recipient of the Ustad Bismillah Khan Yuva Puraskar 2007, a National Award for Contribution to Puppet Theatre by the Ministry of Culture. She is currently the General Secretary of UNIMA India, the Indian chapter of the Union Internationale de la Marionnette. Sorry for my bad accent. Avinash Kumar is a dancer, puppeteer, and choreographer trained in a variety of dance forms, Chhau, contemporary jazz, and Bollywood. He has honed his puppeteering skills from Dadi Padamji and Anurupa Roy. He has performed extensively in India and overseas. Also trained in modern contemporary dance under the guidance of Asta Debu, He regularly holds workshops in schools, colleges, NGOs, and different communities to share his skills with young people. He was a recipient of the Meta Award for Best Choreography for Mahabharata in 2007, the Best Mover Award in Poland Theatre Festival for Mahabharat in 2018, and the Rex Karamveer Chakra Gold Award in 2019. So I'm very, very happy and excited to hand over to Anurupa and Avinash to talk about the work that they have done in collaboration with the Udaya project.
Hi, very good to meet everyone. First, big thank you to agents of Ishq and YP, because this is a moment for us to really look back at the project, which culminated not so long ago and is still continuing in some ways, because while you're doing a project, you're really, your head is down and you're working on it and you're not as reflective. So this was a very good opportunity. Also, I'm going to start with the outcomes and then hand over to Avinash for the processes. And then we'll share a little film that we have done on the process and a little trailer of the films. I want to give just say that exactly like Meera ji was saying, we are artists who ran away from mathematics, and this project brought us straight and ran us headlong into statistics. So right at the beginning, it was very, very challenging for us. So a giant shout out to both Nidhi and Sangram and Tanushri in Population Council, who very patiently, worked with mathematics duds like us and held our hand when the data really got complicated for us. So in terms of outcomes, the first thing is that in Katkatha, we've been working with adolescents and children now for 20 plus years. And since we work a lot with communities, both rural, semi-urban, our studio, for example, is in the border of Delhi in Badarpur, and we have a community theatre center there, an art center. We knew instinctively some of the things that the data was talking about, but it has given tangibility to those things we knew as, oh, we know these things happen, but we don't know how much, to what degree, and how intensely. So that's one of the biggest support that the data has been for us in our work, which will continue to happen and has happened for years. In terms of outcomes, one of the most tangible outcomes that has emerged is the curriculum that we have built for years. We wanted to create something for people working with young people. Here, very tangibly, it has become a curriculum for frontline workers, which is school teachers, medical workers, health workers, NGO workers in the field, in this case, particularly for UP and Bihar, to use certain themes that have emerged from the data as openings and using the resources that have been built, not only by us, but all 5 of the media groups, to initiate discussion, to take discussions between children to children and parent, to children, parent and community. And this is a very concrete outcome, which we are very happy with, that there's finally something for 11 to 17-year-olds, which school teachers and NGO workers can use directly and tangibly on gender attitude, sex, sexuality. The other thing is that we came across this hybrid model of working, because post-COVID, with the lockdown, not being able to be in the field ourselves, this fantastic discovery that we could work with the FLWs online, who could then work with the children directly in the field. And also we were, because of the COVID situation and the crisis, as you know, in the month of April and May, we were also working online. So that has been a fantastic discovery. And we were a sworn live puppet theatre company who are now making puppet videos, is quite a big jump for us. And it's been very exciting, very, very exciting. We'll see in the video. And also the last and final thing I'd like to say before I hand over to Avinash is we are very proud and very happy about the long-term relationship we've just begun with the NGOs we are working with. This project has led to 2 very concrete projects. We were working with Teach for Media, Asian Bridge, Izad, Swabhiman Samiti, and SHADS. And Izad and Asian Bridge are both going to use this curriculum to work with 4,000 and 2,000 young people in their fields respectively for a project which will start now and run until the end of 22. So I hand over to you, Avinash, to talk a little bit about the process.
Yes, hello everyone. अब बाकी चीजें अनुरूपा ने बता दिया, मैं बहुत जल्दी आपको बताता हूँ कि क्या प्रोसेस रहा हमारा। बिकॉज जैसे ही हमारे पास ये प्रोजेक्ट आया, हमें एक टीम की जरूरत थी जिसमें कैमरामैन, एडिटर, स्क्रिप्ट राइटर, म्यूजिशियन, सो ये सब लोग हमारे साथ जुड़े और फिर हमें समझ नहीं आ रहा था कि हम कैसे इसको शुरू कैसे करें। तो फिर हम लोगों ने डिसाइड किया कि हम लोग एक खुद से वर्कशॉप करते हैं और जो हमारे मेंटोर थे विक्रमजीत सिन्हा, वो जेंडर सेक्सुअलिटी पे हमारे साथ वर्कशॉप किया और उसमें से वर्कशॉप के दौरान हम लोगों ने उदाया फाइंडिंग का जो प्रोसेस था उसमें हम गए और उसमें से हमने 13 थीम जो हमने स्टोरी बोर्ड में रखा और उसमें से हमने 3 ऑडियो और 10 जो है हमारे वीडियोस बने और इस तरह से प्रोसेस रहा। सेम प्रोसेस हमने FLW जो यूपी बिहार में, यूपी से 2 NGO थे और बिहार से 3 NGO थे, उनके साथ सेम प्रोसेस हमने किया, उनके साथ वर्कशॉप की FLW के साथ कि आप किस तरह से बच्चों को देखते हैं, किस तरह से आप ये फिल्म डिस्ट्रीब्यूट करेंगे और आप उनसे क्या सवाल किस तरह से पूछेंगे। तो हमारा एक ही मकसद था कि हम उनको ये बताएं कि आप बच्चों से ये ना पूछे कि आपने क्या सीखा इस फिल्म को देख के, आप उनसे ये कहिए कि आपके दिमाग में इस फिल्म को देखने के बाद क्या चला, आपके अंदर क्या चेंजेस आ रहे हैं और ये आप क्या महसूस कर रहे हो, आप क्या सोच रहे हो आगे के लिए। सो इस तरह से हमने उनको बताया और फिर शायद हमारी जो फिल्में थी वो 3 प्रोसेस से गुजरती थी। पहले हम बना के खुद देखते थे, फिर अनुरूपा के पास और फिर पॉप काउंसिल उदय टीम के पास जाते हैं और उसके बाद वो फिल्म हमारे पास वापस आता था। फिर हम उसको फाइनल करके हम यूपी बिहार उसको भेजते थे FLW के साथ और वो उस तरह से बच्चों को दिखाते थे। तो हमारे पास ये था कि अगर बच्चे के दिमाग में कुछ चल रहा है तो वो हमें पेंटिंग के जरिए या पोएम के जरिए या सॉन्ग के जरिए हमें वो चीज अपनी जो उनकी फीलिंग्स है वीडियो देखने के बाद वो जाहिर कर सकते हैं। तो ये प्रोसेस काफी अच्छा रहा। बाकी आप वीडियो में देखेंगे, मेरे ख्याल से वो प्रोसेस आपको ज्यादा समझ आएगा, मैं बताने से ज्यादा मुझे लगता है कि आप वीडियो में समझ पाएंगे। सो हम वीडियो प्ले कर सकते हैं।
क्या है रे भक्त साले। मास्टर जी मैं कम इन।
तो आ गए लाट साहब, पूरे 5 मिनट लेट।
बिट्टू, ओ बिट्टू। हाँ बापू। बेटा इधर आ, वो पनवाड़ी के पास से जाके एक पैकेट बीड़ी लिया बेटा।
बच्चों, कल से परीक्षा शुरू है तो सब अच्छे से पढ़ाई करके आना, ठीक है?
कुछ सोचा? नहीं, अभी तक तो नहीं। अरे जल्दी सोच, कल से ही है शुरू परीक्षा।
मैंने सोच लिया।
बताओ।
ऊपर ऊपर खाए जाड़ भीतर बैल भूखा भैया, ऊपर ऊपर खाए जाड़ भीतर बैल भूखा भैया, गठे बदन पर आयरन गायब बाँ से हटके धोखा भैया, गठे बदन पर आयरन गायब बाँ से हटके धोखा।
घरेलू हिंसा, नौकरी की चिंता, शादी का दबाव, पारिवारिक तकलीफें, बच्चा
कहाँ हुआ दीदी? फुलवा आजकल खेलते हुए नहीं दिखते।
देवियों और सज्जनों, आज का मुकाबला बेहद संजीदा है। मुन्ना और मुन्नी जो कि भाई बहन हैं, आज दौड़ने वाले हैं अपने जीवन की सबसे रोमांचक दौड़।
हमको बिटिया से छीने और नवाज साहब को धराई दिए ऑनलाइन क्लास की खातिर। अब बिटिया की पढ़ाई गई चूल्हा में और हमें धराई दिए नवाज साहब के हाथ में। ओहो हो।
स्वागत है, स्वागत है, स्वागत है। जी हाँ, पता बिल्कुल सही है, आपकी मंजिल ये।
पर मुझे तो कुछ और करना है, इसमें बिल्कुल मजा नहीं आता।
पूरे दिन राजू की पूछ बना फिरता है। अगर ऐसा ही रहा ना तो कभी लंबा आदमी नहीं बन पाएगा।
पर उन्होंने तो ट्रेनिंग केंद्र से पढ़ाई की है ना?
अरे ये पढ़ाई वढ़ाई सब बेकार है, यहाँ ध्यान दे। पीठ सीधी, छाती चौड़ी, मूंछ ऊंची, नाक ऊंची।
नमस्कार दोस्तों, स्वागत करते हैं आप सबका 5.4 उदया रेडियो स्टेशन से। दोस्तों, हम सब अक्सर अपनी जिंदगी में कुछ बातों के बारे में बात करने से हिचकते हैं, शर्माते हैं या यूं कहें कि नजरअंदाज करते हैं। जी हाँ, आज जो कहानी हम सुनने जा रहे हैं वो ऐसी ही एक हिचक के बारे में है। तो आइए सुनते हैं आज की कहानी हिचक।
जिस कॉल को आप कुछ ही देर में सुनने जा रहे हैं वो यूं तो एक साधारण बातचीत है, परंतु इसमें हो रही वार्तालाप का संबंध आप में से किसी के साथ भी हो सकता है। आपसे दरखास्त है कि कृपया कर इसे गुप्त बिल्कुल न रखें।
बदलाव केकरा के तू बोले पिछड़ा जाले इज्जत के अलाव, चाहे गर तू दुनिया बदले लावा खुद में तू बदला। बद 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 बदलाव बद 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 बद
हम दोनों साथ में पढ़ाई करते थे। मैं कक्षा 8 में था, मेरी बहन कक्षा 9 में थी। हम दोनों साथ में पढ़ाई करते थे। लॉकडाउन में स्कूल बंद होने के नाते ऑनलाइन पढ़ाई हो रहा था, तो मेरे घर में एक ही स्मार्टफोन था। मेरे पिताजी मुझे ऑनलाइन पढ़ने के लिए मोबाइल देते थे, मेरी बहन को नहीं देते थे। मेरी बहन बोलती थी कि मुझे दो पढ़ने के लिए, तो मेरे पिताजी बोलते थे कि क्या करोगी तुम पढ़कर। इसलिए मैं आज ये वीडियो जो देखा, मुझे एहसास हुआ कि मेरी बहन को भी मोबाइल देना चाहिए था पढ़ने के लिए। मुझे इस पर बहुत दुख हो रहा है।
आपने मूवी देखी?
हाँ, मैंने ये सारी मूवी देखी और ये सारी मूवी बहुत अच्छी है और ये सारी मूवी को समाज में हर लड़का लड़की को देखनी चाहिए। जब तक लड़के अपने नजरिए नहीं बदलेंगे तब तक हम लड़कियों पे अत्याचार होता रहेगा।
सीरीज था, उसका नाम था मैं और मेरी बेस्टी, जिसमें पॉडकास्ट और एनिमेशन श्रृंखला थी, जिसमें 5 पॉडकास्ट थे, जिसके सब्जेक्ट थे प्यार, सेक्स और जानकारी, शादी के सपने और मातृत्व, शिक्षा और रोजगार, माता पिता के साथ बच्चों के जो रिलेशन होते हैं वो, नागरिकता और एजेंसी। वैसे ही जो एनिमेशन श्रृंखला थी वो 3 थी, जिसमें शिक्षा के सफर पे हमने फिल्म बनाई है, और पोषण और स्वास्थ्य पे, और डिजिटल मीडिया और जेंडर पे। तो इन सारे मुद्दों को करीब से जानने का भी मौका मिला। थोड़ा सा मैं इसमें प्रोसेस के बारे में अगर मैं बात करूं तो ये जो पॉडकास्ट थी उसमें 2 दोस्तों यानी 2 बेस्टी के साथ चर्चा की गई थी उसमें, और उसी से जुड़े मुद्दों को पेश किया गया था। जो आंकड़े थे वो उदय अध्ययन पे आधारित थे, और क्योंकि ये ऑडियो फॉर्मेट में था तो इसे रोचक बनाना बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट था, क्योंकि वीडियो को तो फिर भी लोग देख लेते हैं, लेकिन ऑडियो अगर इंटरेस्टिंग नहीं होता है तो लोग तुरंत बंद कर देते हैं या फिर नहीं सुनना पसंद करते हैं। और खास करके हमारे लिए चैलेंज था कि हम डेटा को कैसे यूज करते हैं इस ऑडियो फॉर्मेट में। तो हमने जो डेटा था हमारे पास उसको हमने ऐसे लिखा कि 2 दोस्त जब चर्चा कर रहे हैं तो उसके आसपास ही चर्चा कर रहे हैं। जैसे किसी शिक्षा के मुद्दे पे हम आंकड़े पेश कर रहे हैं, वहां पे हम उसी से जुड़ी हुई बातें कर रहे हैं, उससे पहले उससे बाद उसी आसपास की टॉपिक पे हम बात कर रहे थे। और इसे लिखा भी हमने ऐसे था कि ये सिर्फ बातचीत या सिर्फ जानकारी ही ना लगे, बल्कि ये मजेदार भी हो। इसलिए हमने इसे थोड़ा हंसी मजाक के तौर पे भी रखा है। और कई बार हमने ऐसा महसूस किया था कि आंकड़े जो होते हैं ना उससे लोगों का जुड़ाव बहुत जल्दी नहीं बन पाता है, क्योंकि इसकी भाषा थोड़ी कठिन होती है जिसको समझ पाना बहुत मुश्किल होता है। खास करके मुझे भी बहुत मुश्किल हुई थी। बट अगर इस डेटा को आप कोई शक्ल देते हैं, मतलब कोई उसको आवाज देते हैं, उसे एक ऐसे लिखें कि वो एक किसी की रियल कहानी है, तो जुड़ाव अक्सर बनता है। तो ऐसे ही हमने पॉडकास्ट को बनाया है। और एनिमेशन की अगर मैं बात करूं तो अगेन वैसे ही हमने जानकारी और आंकड़ों को जोड़ करके एक कहानी के तौर पे लिखा है, और जो लोगों को पसंद भी आए हैं। मैं एक एग्जाम्पल दिखाना चाहूंगी उसके।
बच्चे अक्सर शिक्षा की राह में बाधाओं का सामना करते हैं, जिस कारण इनकी पढ़ाई तक छूट जाती है। और अगर बात करें इन किशोर किशोरियों के शिक्षा की, तो उदय अध्ययन के अनुसार यूपी और बिहार में केवल 40% ही 20 साल की उम्र में स्कूल या कॉलेज में बने रहते हैं।
इसे काफी छोटा मैंने रखा है क्योंकि हमारे पास टाइम लिमिट था, और डेटा को यूज करने के लिए ये था कि हमने जो भी मुद्दे सिलेक्ट किए थे वो ऐसा नहीं था कि ये मुद्दे हमारे लिए नए हों। हम अक्सर इस पे काम करते रहते हैं, जैसे शिक्षा के मुद्दे हों या डिजिटल मीडिया के मुद्दे हों या रोजगार के मुद्दे हों, इन पर अक्सर हम खबरें करते हैं, अक्सर हम बातें करते हैं। बट उसमें इतनी विश्वसनीयता और इतनी गहराई नहीं हो पाती है जब तक कि उसमें आंकड़े ना हो। क्योंकि कई बार आप ये देखोगे ना कि किसी भी मुद्दे को बहुत इजी वे में अगर आप बताओ कि मान लीजिए जस्ट एग्जांपल कि हमारे देश में बहुत सारी लड़कियां हैं जो स्कूल नहीं जा पाती हैं। ये बहुत जनरल सी बात लगती है, लोगों को पता है कि ये एक प्रॉब्लम है, बट उस प्रॉब्लम को वो उतना बड़ा नहीं मानते हैं। लेकिन इसी चीज को अगर आप बताएं कि आपके देश में लगभग 60% लड़कियां हैं जो स्कूल नहीं जा पाती हैं, या फिर उसको एज वाइज अगर हम डिवाइड करें और हम ये बोलें कि 10 से 15 साल की इतनी प्रतिशत लड़कियां हैं जो कॉलेज नहीं जा पाती हैं, स्कूल नहीं जा पाती हैं, या 18 से 25 वर्ष के लड़के हैं जो इस कारणवश उसने पढ़ाई छोड़ दी है। तो अगर आंकड़ों के साथ पेश करते हैं तो वो बातें डायरेक्टली दिमाग को हिट करती है कि अच्छा ये प्रॉब्लम इतनी बड़ी है। तो जिस मुद्दे तो होते हैं, लेकिन उसे और भी ज्यादा स्पष्ट तौर पे और विश्वसनीय तौर पे अगर आपको दर्शाना हो तो उसके लिए डेटा होना बहुत जरूरी है, और ये काफी मददगार साबित होता है। अगर जस्ट वन एग्जांपल,
बहुत कुछ तो पर उसमें बैठ मिला है ही हमें तो। क्या सोचा हमें तो बहुत स्टाइलिश होंगे, हमारा बहुत ख्याल रखेंगे, हम लोग सबसे ज्यादा घूमने जाएंगे, पर जब से शादी हुई कहीं घूमने ही नहीं गए हम लोग। तो हनीमून पे जाएंगे बढ़िया सबसे पहले, लेकिन इधर आगे पता चला कैसा हनीमून देख ही नहीं। हम लोगों की शादी तो ऐसी हुई, शादी हुई और बस लॉकडाउन हो गया 2-3 महीने के बाद। पहली बार तो इतनी सर्दियों में शादी हुई कि सब घर वाले कहीं जाने नहीं दे रहे थे कि सर्दी बहुत सर्दी बहुत। जब सर्दी जैसे जैसे खत्म हुई, मार्च का महीना आया, अब हमने कहा चलो मार्च के महीने में सब लोग घूमने चलेंगे। ज्यादा सर्दी भी नहीं रही, वो भी नहीं रही, तो लॉकडाउन हो गया।
खुश मिजाज हुसैना और इसबा की बातों से हमें ऐसा महसूस नहीं होगा, पर असल में कम उम्र में शादी होने या शादी के बाद नाखुश रहने का सीधा असर लड़कियों के मानसिक स्वास्थ्य पर पड़ता है। उदय रिसर्च के मुताबिक शादीशुदा लड़कियों में मानसिक तनाव, उससे जुड़े लक्षण अन्य लड़कियों की तुलना, मतलब कि जिनकी शादी नहीं हुई है, उन लड़कियों की तुलना में लगभग 7% ज्यादा होते हैं। और इन सब के बीच अगर प्रेगनेंसी आ जाए तो ये था हमारा कि कैसे हमने आंकड़ों को और जो ऑडियो थे, जो बातें हमने करी थी, उनको कैसे जोड़ा है। इसको हमने ऑनलाइन और ऑफलाइन दोनों तरीके से चलाया है। अभी हमारा एक कोर्स चल रहा है जिसमें 120 युवा महिलाएं और लड़कियां शामिल हैं, जहां पे हमने इसे दिखाया था। तो काफी अच्छे रिस्पॉन्स मिले हैं उनकी तरफ से, उन्हें काफी पसंद आया है। खास करके जो गेस्ट वाला हिस्सा था जिससे वो काफी खुद को कनेक्ट कर पाए, और खास करके आंकड़ों की अगर हम बात करें तो उन्होंने भी अगेन यही बोला कि इससे उन्हें पता लगता है कि ये मुद्दे कितने बड़े हैं। तो एक तरीके से यही है ना कि उन मुद्दों को ज्यादा स्पष्ट तौर पे वो समझ पाए हैं। एक बहुत ही इंटरेस्टिंग सी चीज यहाँ पे निकल के आई, वो ये थी कि उन्होंने कहा कि हमने सिर्फ उन मुद्दों के बारे में नहीं बात की है कि जिन पे सब बात करते हैं, हमने उन मुद्दों को भी टच किया है जिनके बारे में लोगों को लगता है कि ये कोई मुद्दा ही नहीं है। जैसे कि माता पिता के साथ बच्चों के रिश्ते कैसे हैं, यह लगता है कि ये मुद्दा क्या है। हर माँ बाप है वो बच्चों से प्यार ही करते हैं। हाँ, थोड़े ये होते हैं कि थोड़े ज्यादा स्ट्रिक्ट होते हैं, थोड़े कम स्ट्रिक्ट होते हैं, बट ऐसा नहीं है कि बच्चे प्यार नहीं करते हैं माँ बाप से, या माँ बाप बच्चों से प्यार नहीं करते हैं, और रिश्ता सिर्फ इतना ही होता है। बट इस पॉडकास्ट के बाद उन्हें समझ में आया कि कितनी आजादी है उनके पास, किन किन चीजों में खुद के माँ बाप से भी बात करने की, और कितनी ऐसी बातें हैं जो वो अपने माँ बाप के साथ खुल करके कर पाते हैं। तो एक तरीके से एक लड़की ने मुझे बताया था कि एक अपने रिश्तों को भी एक नए नजरिए से अब वो कैसे देख पाएगी। तो ये वहां से निकल करके आया। दूसरी एक और इंटरेस्टिंग बात ये थी कि हम अक्सर लड़कियों के बारे में बात करते हैं कि लड़कियों की शिक्षा कम है या लड़कियों के पास रोजगार के मौके ज्यादा नहीं है, लेकिन हमने इस सीरीज में, और खास करके जो उदया अध्ययन था उसमें, हमने सिर्फ लड़कियों की नहीं लड़कों की भी बातें की हैं। तो ये था कि लड़कियों की स्थिति बहुत अच्छी नहीं है, बट ऐसा नहीं है कि लड़के बहुत अच्छी स्थिति में हैं, उनकी स्थिति भी डाउन है, उनमें भी और काम करने की जरूरत है। और एक सवाल था कि किन किन लोगों को ये पॉडकास्ट या ये एनिमेशन देखना या यूज करना चाहिए। तो मेरे लिए सवाल थोड़ा सा मुश्किल लग रहा है। मुझे लगता है कि ये सबको देखना चाहिए और सभी को यूज करना चाहिए, बट
जो युवा है, जो किशोर किशोरियां हैं, उन्हें देखना चाहिए और खास करके उनके जो माता पिता हैं उन्हें भी ये देखना चाहिए, क्योंकि इस पॉडकास्ट से या फिर इस तरह के जितने भी प्रोडक्ट हैं उनसे हम ये तो बताते हैं कि युवाओं में कितनी आजादी या कितनी जानकारी की जरूरत है, लेकिन अगर वो उनके माँ बाप तक नहीं पहुंचेंगे तो फिर वो बात वहीं पे रुक जाएगी। उन्हें नहीं पता चलेगा कि एक्चुअली में उनके बच्चों के साथ उनको बात करनी चाहिए या किन किन मुद्दों पे बात करनी चाहिए। अभी हमने एक आउटरीच सेशन किया था जिसमें काफी मजेदार सी एक बात निकल के आई थी, जो था कि हम सेक्स एजुकेशन जैसे मुद्दों पे बात नहीं करते हैं, खास करके अपने माँ बाप से इस बारे में कोई जानकारी हमें नहीं मिलती है क्योंकि उन्हें नहीं पता होता है। एक लड़की ने बताया था कि ये प्रॉब्लम है, बट ये सिर्फ युवाओं के बीच ही प्रॉब्लम नहीं है कि उनको नहीं पता है कि ये जानकारी कहाँ से मिले या कैसे ले, किससे ले। ये प्रॉब्लम उनके माता पिता के स्तर पे भी है क्योंकि उनको खुद ही कहीं और से जानकारी नहीं मिली है, या जिन माता पिता के पास जानकारी है उन्हें नहीं पता कि ये अपने बच्चों तक कैसे ट्रांसफर करेंगे, कैसे उन्हें बताएंगे जो जानकारी उनके पास है। तो ये सारी चीजें भी निकल करके आई थी और जो युवा है वो इसे यूज करें। जो ऐसे संस्थान जिन्हें जो युवाओं के लिए काम करते हैं और मीडिया पार्टनर्स जो जानकारी लोगों तक बेहतर तरीके से पहुंचा सकते हैं। थैंक यू।
बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया लक्ष्मी। आई थिंक ये जो आप बात कर रही थी कि कई बार क्रिएटिव एजेंसीज के लिए ये स्टीरियोटाइप भी रहता है, लेकिन क्रिएटिव एजेंसीज के लिए शायद आंकड़ों से जुड़ना, सॉरी आई विल स्विच टू इंग्लिश, आई थिंक फॉर क्रिएटिव एजेंसीज टू connect with research and data and numbers is a difficult proposition many times, and this is a stereotype, but this is also true in many ways. And I think the intent of this whole collaboration has been how a research agency that is invested in numbers can work with creative agencies to give them a very different shape and form. And I think that's the beauty of this collaboration. To take us further to understand this a little bit more, I would like to invite the team from Agents of Ishq or Paradevi Pictures. Niranjana is a creative assistant at Paradevi Pictures. She has an interest in telling, writing and reading stories, and sometimes she tries to illustrate as well. She can often be found singing to herself or rewatching Hindi and Tamil films. Anshu is a queer particle hoping to become a crazy cat lady by the age of 25. They do graphic design and illustration, and most of their work looks at gender, queerness, and the intersection of the personal and the political. So Niranjana and Anshu, over to you to talk about the journey from Agents of Ishq.
Hello, thank you so much, Manak. Hi everyone, my name is Anshuman, my pronouns are they and them, and I am junior graphic designer at Agents of Ishq, which is a digital media project by Paradevi Pictures. And today, me and my colleague and friend Niranjana, who is creative assistant here, we are going to be walking you through some of the creatives that we have made using the Udaya data, and we're going to be walking you through some of the processes that we followed and all of the fun that we had along the way. So let me just share my screen really quickly. Okay, so I want to preface this presentation by just talking about the Udaya survey itself a little bit and why we at Agents of Ishq found it so inspiring and found it so, and why we found it so inspiring and so much fun to engage with. So Udaya is actually a very, very special survey. One of the most interesting things about the survey is that it was conducted in 2 waves, one between 2015 to 16 and between 2018 and 19. And one of the reasons what this allowed is that the researchers were able to engage with the young people on ground in the states of Uttar Pradesh and Bihar in very, very intimate ways over a significant period of time. And this was a significant period because it was a period of time for growth for both the young people and the researcher. And so we actually had a spotlight on our theme for the month of June of this year was actually adolescents at Agents of Ishq. And engaging with the data from the Udaya survey actually gave us a lot of insight and gave us a lot of new perspectives, and inspired us and gave us like a sort of perspective on how we can approach the idea of adolescence and how we can conduct conversation and discourse about it. One of the main things that the data from the survey inspired us to do was to kind of reframe how we look at adolescence and how society thinks about the idea of adolescence, and taking it away from framing it as simply a physical thing, simply like physical changes, and looking at it more holistically and using a more intersectional lens, reframing it as not just a physical change but also a transition from childhood to adulthood. So this is a little bit of the work that we created in the Adolescence Month here at AOI. The questions that we wanted to address here was, again, who is an adolescent? How do we define an adolescent? What is an Indian adolescent? And again, trying to kind of reconfigure how we look at adolescence itself, and also questions about the internal lives of adolescents, the emotional lives of adolescents, and looking at various diverse things and diverse factors that contribute to adolescents and their mental, emotional, and sexual health. Like, what kind of data and what kind of information, what kind of resources, rights are they able to access? How are they able to access these things? What are they not able to access? We also looked at some policies. We looked at POCSO, we looked at RKSK, government policies that are meant to help adolescents, and we looked at the various roadblocks that these policies might have, that adolescents might have when accessing these policies. So after we put out these creators through Agents of Ishq, we had a lot of fun engaging with the process and engaging with adolescents as a theme. And when we put these creators out into the world, we had many people approach us with very, very nice, very, very interesting things to say about the work that we had put out. If you can see here, the average time that most people spent on the swipe posts and comics that we posted was 6 minutes, which means that the posts were engaged in and read in depth and in detail. And a lot of the responses that we got were from other professionals who work with young people, adolescents, and other organizations. And they mentioned that the way the data was presented, and of course the data itself, allowed them to gain new perspective in their own work, and allowed them, it kind of really resonated with their own work and really resonated with them. And when we also had made the creators available in Hindi, just to kind of make it accessible to as many people as possible. So when we had these such an overwhelmingly positive response to the content that we were creating, this is when we realized that the perspective that the Udaya data and the Udaya survey has taken on adolescents is a gold mine, and it is such a valuable and interesting and important perspective to take. And we wanted to kind of engage with the Udaya survey more and see what kind of creative, interesting, beautiful, creative things we can create. One of the questions that we really considered while in our further engagement with the Udaya data is, what can we learn if we think of data as a story? This is actually the reason why we created the material that we did. So with the Udaya data, so far we have created 4 short digital narratives, and we're working on a long form comic at this moment. And we chose the form of a comic, and even the digital narratives are very beautiful illustrated comics. We've had lots of talented, skilled illustrators and graphic designers on hand who helped us illustrate these narratives that we wrote. So yeah, what can we learn if we think of data as a story? Now, the reason why we so if we think of data as a story, what the process that we followed when writing these comics was, we actually conducted interviews with a lot of the researchers that were part of the Udaya survey. And when the researchers shared these little anecdotes of their experience on ground of their lived experience of engaging with young people in the states of Uttar Pradesh and Bihar, there were so many interesting, varied, also very specific, and also so very, very diverse experiences and anecdotes that came ahead. These were all frequently full of gravity, but they were also very, very interesting, and there was also so much joy, so much humanity in them. And this is when we realized that yes, comics is the way to go forward, because comics are such an engaging and inviting, engaging and inviting way to talk about data. Second point is that when we present data as a story, it allows the emotion of the lived experience and the data itself to engage in a conversation, engage in a give and take. The emotion helps in the understanding of the data, and the data in turn becomes grounded and helps in understanding the lived experience. And I think that this is the most fun and this is the most exciting part actually about the Udaya survey and Udaya data. It is that it's not just data and it's not just information, but it is information that tells a story. Another central theme in the way we approached adolescents after engaging with the Udaya survey was that the approach that Udaya took to research itself, we realized shifts the frame from one of control to care. It's a shifting from the frame of control to the shifting to the frame of care. For example, a lot of the times when we are speaking about young people and we're speaking about adolescents, especially in terms of data and research, we have certain expectations, we have certain, we tend to box them in. We tend to have certain boxes, certain roles that we expect young people and adolescents to fill. And if, some people are not able to fit into these stereotypes, if some people are not able to fulfill these roles, then oftentimes they're made to feel left out. Often they're made to feel as if they're an oddball. And I feel like the way in which the researchers at Udaya carried out their research actually exemplified how we can incorporate the framework of care in the research itself. The framework of care is one that puts the intimacy of the experience, the human emotion of the experience at the forefront. It puts the vulnerabilities, it puts the insecurities, the doubts, the small doubts that people might have. It puts the anecdotes, it puts even moments of levity and joy, moments of humor at the forefront. And it allows us to engage with the everyday lives of adolescents, and allows us to peek into their emotional experiences, into their internal lives, their emotional lives. When we consider things that, do they have access to phones? Do they have access to internet? Do they have access to data? If they have access to phones, what kind of entertainment do they have access to on their phones? Are they able to talk about things like sexual health, or even talk about their experiences and their needs and wants with the people immediately around them? Are they able to talk about these things and confide in their parents? What about the relationships of adolescents? What about the romantic relationships, friendly relationships, all of these everyday experiences that we wanted to engage with? So I'm going to quickly walk everyone through 4 little excerpts of the 4 digital narratives that we created here at Agents of Ishq. These were, as I mentioned earlier, based on the interviews that we conducted with 4 researchers from the Udaya survey. The first narrative, which is based on anecdotes from the interview conducted with the researcher Pramod, is Chandu's story. And essentially, this is a story about Chandu is a very, very colorful character. I had a lot of fun illustrating this comic. And essentially, this comic is a story about how oftentimes young people are married without having very little knowledge about sexual health and contraception and reproduction and things like that. So if you take a look at this frame, this is what I was talking about. These are the little anecdotes that really matter, because this is a lived experience. This is an everyday conversation that young people have with the researchers. When someone asks them, condom kaise pehante hai, jante ho kya? And the young people are like, oh, topi ki tarah. It's just such a joyful moment. It is also a humorous moment. And these were the experiences that we wanted to forefront. And we felt that we wanted to forefront these experiences and anecdotes because in addition to being joyful and engaging and humorous, they also illuminate the data. They also explain why a certain statistic is the way that it is. Even here, Chandu's story is actually also a story about how young people, go after and seek out resources, how they seek out information if they're not able to confide in, and if they're not able to talk about things like these with their immediate family and with their parents. So, for example, here you can see that Chandu is actually asking very, 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 very intimate questions to the researcher Bhaskar. So, yeah. Next up is Mohan's story, which is based on anecdotes from the researcher Ravi. And Mohan's story is actually a story about the complicated circumstances that sometimes affect young people's access to things like school, to things like education. So Mohan's narrative is one in which Mohan was very, very interested in school, and school was one of the things that really excited him and gave him joy in life. And this was initially when Ravi was in the first round of research. When Ravi spoke to him, Mohan told him, hey, school is one of the things, and education and learning is one of the things that I really look forward to. Fast forward to 3 years later, in the 2018 and 19 wave, when Ravi came back to speak to Mohan, he found out that Mohan's family members immediate family members had passed away, and Mohan had to work in a matchbox factory to support himself and his family. So it is, like I mentioned, some of these stories are very, very real and have such gravity. But if you take a look at the next slide, you will also realize that oftentimes these are also stories of hope and of resilience. Because here, the researcher Ravi actually spoke to his cousin and spoke to his brother, who are educators. And now his cousin and his brother come and kind of tutor the young children who are in need, the adolescents who are in need. So yes, oftentimes complicated circumstances, difficult circumstances, but there's always a narrative of resilience and always a narrative of hope that emerges. So the third story that we worked on is Chintu's story, that was presented to us by researcher Bhaskar. So again, this is one of my favorite frames from the comic. It is again like a very, very sort of, I just really love the energy in this frame. There are like these chote young people who are just like sniggering around in bushes, being like, and asking the researcher again very, very intimate, very, very intimate questions. Sir, what is a condom? Show me how to wear. Anyway, so this story, Chintu's story, is actually a very, very cute and very fun story where Chintu is a young person, and he actually spoke to Bhaskar about how he is experiencing nightfall and he has no idea how to control it. And he approached Bhaskar being like, oh, Bhaskar, can you please tell me what to do? And again, this is in a backdrop. The context of the story is that in Chintu's school, the teachers are not really covering the chapters that talk about sexual health, that talk about reproduction. And neither are these chapters being covered in the coaching classes that Chintu is going to. So when Bhaskar asks Chintu, hey, why don't you just simply ask these questions to your coaching classes, because they're supposed to be covering the whole syllabus? Chintu replies, oh, this is embarrassing for me because मेरी girlfriend है coaching classes में. So how can I ask these questions in front of her? And so Bhaskar was actually very, very, in this narrative, Bhaskar was actually very surprised and pleasantly surprised by the fact that Chintu was so open to the idea of equality for girls. And he asked Chintu, oh, what would you feel if your girlfriend wanted to wear a sleeveless top? And Chintu said, she's pretty, I'm handsome. We are a cool, very, very cool couple, like Kesri Lal and Kajal. For those of you who don't know, Kesri Lal is a singer who is very, very famous in Uttar Pradesh and Bihar. Anyway, so when Bhaskar goes on to ask, what would your reaction be to your sister wearing a sleeveless top? Chintu's position kind of switches, and he says, oh, that's different. It is my duty as a brother to protect my sister from such things. So the crux of Chintu's story, the crux of this story that Bhaskar shared with us, again, is to illustrate yes, there is a lot of infrastructure, there are cycles, there is data, there is connectivity, there are roads, there are coaching classes, all of these things that are available. And yes, there is progress being made, but also this infrastructure is not everything. There are still social norms and social attitudes that do need to change. Another thing that really stood out in this narrative was that there was like an internal shift within Bhaskar himself as a researcher, wherein he himself went on like a journey of growth internally. And this is actually something that Niranjana is going to touch upon later. So I'm not going to talk too much about it over here. But yes, the final short digital narrative that we worked on was Manju's story, which was told to us by the researcher Preeti. And this, again, is a story that has a lot of gravity to it. It's about a young girl called Manju who has recently broken up with her boyfriend, who she got very intimate with, who she got very emotionally invested in, and who she also got sexually intimate with. And now the boyfriend has left her. He has abandoned her. And so she's going through a period of heartbreak, through a period of hurt. And essentially, the entire comic is a conversation between Manju and Preeti. And it is a conversation where Manju is talking about her heartbreak. She is talking about the fact that she is hurting. And it is, again, a very good example of the way we can present data, because not only is she talking just about her heartbreak, but the fact that she's talking about her heartbreak is indicative of and points to larger systems that need to change, and points to larger systems that create this heartbreak in the first place. For example, here in the comic, Manju talks about how she essentially has her female friends that she could confide in are no longer around, because they have all gotten married and moved away to faraway villages, to faraway places. So there is an inherent sense of loneliness that she's experiencing. There is that sense of isolation. Also, yes, there are mobiles, yes, there is internet connectivity, but also there is a lot of restriction on mobility itself, So again, all of these things really contribute to depression and contribute to problems with mental health that young people face. And again, one of the things that really stood out to me in this narrative is that, yes, she's talking about her heartbreak, and yes, it is about things like connectivity, restriction to mobility, but there is also an intersection of gender here. It is also talking about gendered biases that society has, because of which there are these problems in Manju's life. There is so much pressure to get married at a young age, and once you're married, you essentially have to cut off from your old life. You have no access to your friends. You are left completely alone. And one of the most heartfelt and one of the most touching parts about this comic was how Manju really was able to confide in Preeti, who is the researcher, and who saw Preeti as a figure of support and saw Preeti as an important figure in her life. And this is actually one of the threads that is one of the common threads throughout all four narratives, is these young people all looked to their researchers as very, very important figures in their life. They looked at them as figures of support, as people that they could rely on and that they could confide in and trust. People were always saying कि भैया मुझे आप phone number दे दो, मुझे आप बता दो कि condom कैसे पहनते हैं, मुझे आप बता दो कि contraception क्या होता है, मुझे आप can I speak to you दीदी because I have no one else to confide in. So these are all very, very these are all very open-hearted, very generous narratives that have emerged, and I think that's really beautiful. Another thing that's really beautiful is the fact that the researchers themselves have reciprocated equally. They have sort of shown an equal amount of care in the way that they have conducted the research and in the way that they have interacted with these young people. So just to kind of wrap up on whatever I have spoken about so far. The question is
Anshu,
that, yes.
Just wanted to say if we can shift to Niranjana, because we will be really out of time at 5 minutes.
Yeah. Okay. So Niranjana is going to quickly talk about, Niranjana is going to walk us through the long form narrative and the long form comic that we are working on. And she's also going to talk about the idea of research as care that I also touched upon. So yes, over to Niranjana.
Thank you, Anshuman. So if you could change the slide. So, as Anshuman also told you, the longer narrative was not just a collection of shorter stories. We also thought after interviewing the researchers, that the researchers were a crucial part of this larger project. So we've also included their narratives, how they became researchers, what they thought about the entire study, what were their experiences, the different kinds of moments, when there was some kind of, there were some small challenges, but how they were overcome, how they took an initiative to make the lives of these children better. And all of this was possible because of the approach of care, where there was an investment in what these children wanted and taking it from there in order to understand their lives better, and not just looking at their lives in terms of checkboxes to be filled. About the pleasure principle, which is a big factor in a lot of the work that Agents of Ishq does, is to make all this data and the emotional experiences, which are both two aspects to this comic, accessible to readers. And the form of the comic is easier for the readers to access, is easier than a research report, and which is why we chose the format of the comic. And as we've been talking through the entire conference, the approach of pleasure, the approach of care is maybe slower, but definitely more effective and more long-lasting in terms of the change that it can bring about in the lives of especially young people. So I think we'll wrap up with that, Manak. Thank you.
Thank you, Manak.
Thank you so much. So if we can go to the last group now. Apologies for interrupting the speakers. We just will be out of time. We have to end at 5:30. I think we will take some extra time for the last presentation to be able to presenters to be able to present with a little bit of calmness and ease. But we do need to end very quickly. So with no waiting, I would just like to introduce the team from Point of View and invite them to share. Vaishali is a lover of tea, solitude, and all things artsy. She made her way into illustration, then design after doing a brief stint in journalism with Amity and the Times of India. At POV, she takes care of all things design and illustration. And when not working, she is busy making vision boards for her art studio, Khas by Vaishali Soni, and chasing inspiration. Neha, Bahuguna, aka Neha Bhai, is a communication designer who hails from the mountains and have been working as a writer and conceptualizer, poet, and storyteller for children and adult content in Mumbai for some time. Her medium of works or writing vary from projects like comic books, animations, to live action films. And she also loves practicing sustainable fashion and making things by hand. Debarati is a project anchor in the Sex Gender Tech program at Point of View. They anchor projects at the intersections of gender, sexuality, digital rights, and the internet. So over to you, the team from Point of View, for the presentation.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for having us here, and really grateful for the opportunity to be able to first work on this project with the brilliant data from the Udaya study, and now to share some of our experiences and learnings. Without further ado, since we are already over time, I'd just like to move straight into it. I hope you're being able to see my screen. So at POV, we are a feminist non-profit organization, and we work with women, girls, and people of marginalized genders. And our project, based on the Udaya data, is called Meera Pehla Mobile. That means my first mobile. And it is a Hindi comic book publication, which is based on the story of an adolescent girl and how she transitions to the digital space through her mobile phone. And the key aspects of the story is that it is engaging. We have tried to keep it fun and conversational, and really very visual, because the target audience that we are trying to reach are also adolescent girls and young women. So in order to build like a connect with them, we have relied very heavily on the visual aspect of it. So Meera Pehla Mobile, it follows the journey of Chanchal, who is our protagonist, and she is a young adolescent girl who our reader will find, very recognizable, just like herself or her friend or a sibling. And the scenarios that we have tried to portray in the comic are also very familiar, very relatable to the lived experiences of girls and women. So very briefly about the process, what we first did was we pooled the rich data from from the Udaya study, especially around access and use of digital media and the trends in consumption of digital media by adolescents in UP. And since we have been working at grassroots with girls and young women at the intersection of gender and technology, we pulled in some of our experience from work at POV. Besides that, we also did an online co-creation workshop with 15 girls and young women from Uttar Pradesh, where they shared some of their lived experiences around mobile phones and the gender norms they are navigating around that. And we tried to write the story, engage with some of the questions, fears, curiosities that the girls have themselves expressed. As I was saying, as we did a deep dive into Udaya's research around access, consumption of digital media, and really looked at the data points that could inform the narrative in the comic book. So here, like in this part of the story, you can see, Chanchal is introducing a smartphone, which is really like a magical thing to her. But she is also pointing out that this is a smartphone, but it's not mine, it's my brother's. So these kind of aspects are based on the data that came out of the Udaya study around ownership, where we learned that ownership of mobile phones, we know that it is higher among boys, but boys are more than twice as likely to own a mobile phone as compared to girls their age. So in relatable visual manners, we try to reflect some of these themes. And then, she moves on. Chanchal introduces her family along with what kind of phone each family member has. So she says that she has a keypad phone, her parents share a phone, and, her brother has taken the phone that her bhabhi received as a wedding gift. So this idea came out of the study as well, where we saw the difference between married and unmarried girls when it comes to having an access to mobile phones, where it is really ironical that married girls really have to wait until they're married to get a mobile phone, but once they're married, they're not allowed to use it. Chanchal also confides many things in her diary, and this is her way of also communicating with the reader. And she really wonders, why is it that her brother and his friends have a smartphone with internet all the time, and she doesn't? So even the gender norms, are very much underlying the Udaya data through and through. In terms of access, use, in terms of the amount of time that boys and girls spend daily on their mobile phones, where in the study we saw that boys reported twice that they spend twice the amount of time on social media as compared to girls. So some of these data has been used to create characters like the brother's character and the dynamics between Chanchal and her brother, and to really show the gender norms that the girls experience in their day-to-day lives. Again, there are gender norms highlighted throughout the story, where, even in our work with girls, we know that girls are considered to have no use for mobile phones, which is a very common experience, that girls are always expected to justify why they need a mobile phone, and they really have to earn it. So even Chanchal, she badly wants a mobile phone for her birthday, but she gets gold earrings as gifts instead of a mobile phone, because gold can later go as dowry for her marriage. On the other hand, we see, if girls have access to mobile phones or the internet or social media, the Udaya study also says that adolescents who had more access to these mediums, they are likely to develop more positive attitudes and gender egalitarian attitudes as compared to those who don't have access. So some of these ideas we use to create other characters, like we have a character of Zoya Didi, who is an older friend who Chanchal goes for advice and guidance, and Zoya Didi holds these gender egalitarian values and also uses the internet, uses social media more, and has more access than Chanchal herself. And yeah, like I was saying, how girls really have to prove themselves to get a mobile phone. So Chanchal also really has to justify, and she has to do various things, come first in class, help her parents with their work in order to get a phone, whereas her brother just does not have to do any of these. And some other themes that emerged out of the study were, despite all of the gender divide and the gender gap and barriers and restrictions in terms of access, adolescents really they explore a lot of things using the phone, and it is really a gateway to freedom and enjoyment. So here in the comic as well, in Chanchal and Zoya's relationship, the phone really plays an important role, and they really explore so many different things through the phone, and they have a lot of fun. One very important aspect is, of course, the experiences of harassment, because in our work with girls and women, even in the Udaya study and also in the co-creation workshop that we did with girls in order to write this story, we saw that one of the most common experiences of digital harassment is that girls tend to get a lot of blank calls and messages from unknown numbers. And this is something that Chanchal also navigates, and how she responds to that, through her phone, because girls have their own strategies of dealing with it. And this is the part, the experience of harassment is the part of the story where we see the most of the twists and turns. So you really have to read it, otherwise, it will be a spoiler. So how she really responds to it with her own strategies, how she deals with it, is she able to share with her parents, who helps her out, and how does she emerge out of it? That is also something that we have written about. And in terms of dealing with harassment, abuse, and violence, there are also conversations around privacy and safety in the digital space that we have tried to have in the comic, about passwords, digital security, etc. And while keeping in mind privacy and safety, also really using it as a gateway to freedom, and exploring and having fun with the phone is something we have also emphasized on. So throughout the course of the story, although we did not highlight data points as stark data as such, because it was in the form of a comic book, we have incorporated some of the related data as trivia, or did you know, sort of visual representations at the back of the comic, as that the reader can refer to as fun, as facts. So these are also data that are related to the story itself, around ownership, access, the married and unmarried girls, difference in terms of use of mobile phones, etc. So I think I'll hand it over to Neha, who was the script writer for this book too, and Neha will share about a launch workshop that we did related to this comic book with 60 adolescent girls and young women from UP. So experiences around that. Neha.
Okay. Thank you, Debarati. Thank you guys. हमें यहाँ पे बुलाने के लिए और हमारा काम यहाँ पे शेयर करवाने के लिए। तो जैसे देबारती ने काफी सारी चीजें आपको ऑलरेडी बता दी है कि कैसे कैसे हमने कहानी बनाई, कैसे कैसे हमने रियल लाइफ एक्सपीरियंस और उदया डेटा के जो उदया डेटा के जो आंकड़े हैं उनको साथ में लेके एक कहानी बुनी है। और चंचल एक लड़की है जो कि उन सारी लड़कियों को रिप्रेजेंट करती है जो भी जिनसे हमने बात की और जिनसे हमने उनके एक्सपीरियंस लिए। तो एक्सपीरियंस में मतलब जैसे आपके स्क्रीन में है ही कि जो बहुत सारे क्वेश्चन बच्चों के पास थे कि भाई हमें लड़कों को फोन है, हमें फोन क्यों नहीं है, या पापा के पास फोन है, भैया के पास फोन है, मम्मी के पास फोन नहीं है। तो इस तरीके की छोटी छोटी जो चीजें थी वो सारे लड़कियों को मतलब बार बार उनके दिमाग में क्वेश्चन आ रहे। तो जब हम कहानी भी बना रहे थे तो हमने ये कोशिश की कि ये जो फोन एक व्यक्तिगत माध्यम है, तो एक व्यक्तिगत माध्यम के जरिए हम ये पूरी कहानी कैसे करें, इसलिए हमने उसमें उसकी जो पर्सनल डायरी है उसे भी इनकॉर्पोरेट किया कि पर्सनल डायरी में वो सारी चीजें लिखती है जो शायद वो अपने आसपास वालों से नहीं पूछ सकती। सिंपल चीजें कि मुझे फोन क्यों नहीं दे रहे हो, मुझे कुंडल क्यों दे रहे हो, या फिर ऐसी चीजें मुझे क्यों दे रहे हो जिनकी जरूरत नहीं है, क्योंकि पेरेंट्स को लगता है जरूरत है लेकिन उसे नहीं लगता। तो एक वो माध्यम बनाने की हमने कोशिश की। और उसके बाद हमने जब बच्चों के साथ मतलब बालिकाओं के साथ ये सब शेयर किया तो काफी सारी चीजें थी जो उनको एकदम से रिलेट हो पाई। उनको ये मतलब 1-to-1 कॉन्वर्सेशन काफी लोगों को लगा कि हमारी कहानी चल रही है। तो हमें काफी अच्छा लगा कि वी वर एबल टू रिप्रेजेंट व्हाटएवर दीज गोइंग थ्रू, एंड मोबाइल क्योंकि एक दुनिया मतलब एक पर्सनल स्पेस को रोक देना, मतलब आपकी जो क्या बोलते हैं व्यक्तिगत पहुंच है उसको तोड़ने जैसी चीज हो जाती है। तो ये किया उस कहानी को सामने लाने का। और कैन यू शो द नेक्स्ट स्लाइड प्लीज देवती? हेलो हेलो।
Yeah, the next slide is on.
आई थिंक तो एनीवे जो तो क्योंकि हमारे पास समय की कमी है और
The next slide is on, Neha. You can.
नेक्स्ट या समय आपको बताइए होगा, लेकिन ओवरऑल मैं यही कहना चाहूंगी कि कहानी में हमने चंचल को एक इस तरीके का किरदार लिया है जो वो सारे सवालों का जवाब दे सके इनके लिए जो सवाल आते। तो वैशाली आप आगे।
थैंक यू नेहा। सो यस, सो जो हमारा फीडबैक हमको मिला अबाउट दिस होल कॉमिक, जो वी एक्चुअली डिड अनदर वर्कशॉप विद द गर्ल्स जो हमारी को क्रिएशन वर्कशॉप में थी, एंड the feedback overall was really positive because like we have already discussed that the story Chanchal ki jo kahani thi, it mirrored the girls reality, chahe wo like right from the point where they are getting kundals for their birthdays instead of mobile, then saving every penny ki aapko jo chahiye, if you want a phone you have to work for it, then you have to prove yourself ki you are capable of owning a mobile phone. So everything the girls felt like it was their story. Moreover, the Uday data that was presented in the comic was relatable to their lived experiences, or a lot of them shared that the data point that stood out was the gender gap in terms of phone owning, access and use. They also shared that they would like to know more about the links between education and phone access, because what they have seen is that their brothers get it, and once they get it, they are not asked, they are not surveilled, उनसे पूछा नहीं जाता कि what are they doing, but with girls it always happens कि they are always questioned कि तुम क्या कर रहे हो, like whether are you capable of owning a simple mobile phone or not. So that was the feedback that we got. Debarati, can we? Yeah, thank you. So moving on to the next steps, the plans to take this comic forward is actually on two levels, one offline and online. So offline, we will be running we'll be disseminating 3,000 copies with among Hindi-speaking adolescent girls and young women through our grassroots partners. And online level pay, we will be we are actually doing a social media campaign where we are talking about all those scenes, like talking about safety, privacy among everyone, and also getting a lot of traction on it, because what we have seen in the social media launch is that it's not the story of rural people. It is also happening like people in the urban areas. So yeah, and apart from that, we will be launching our comic on International Day of the Girl Child, which is 11th October on our website. So yeah, these are the plans forward, and I really hope all of you read it. Just wait for like 4 more days. Yeah, thank you.
Manak.
Thank you. Thank you, Vaishali. So without any further wait, I think I'm so sorry, we are a little bit out of time and we're running very short on time for this session. So I'm going to keep my comments to the minimum, and I'm so sorry we will not be able to take questions. However, there is more information about these projects coming up very soon. So for everybody who's registered, we will send out an email and a WhatsApp website link to you all to find out more about these media creations and engage with them further, as well as the Udaya study. I will invite Sangram just for a quick closing note before we end the session.
Thank you, Manak. First of all, I'll thank you, YP Foundation and Agent of Ishq for organizing this
conference, and particularly this our session on the adolescent and insights of the Udaya story, how it is coming and how these media products, materials we have prepared that has been disseminated widely, and many government agencies, UN agencies, as well as many stakeholder adolescents groups are keen on this particular products. So I will just appreciate Behanbox, Jamal Media, Point of View, Agent of Ishq, and Katkatha for preparing all these materials, working with us. There are many discussions, arguments gone in between from our team, from their team. So ultimately, the product has been very nice. And we are very proud that we have produced within this last 6 to 8 months during this second phase of Corona, after the Corona also, nearly 35 products. And a few, 2 or 3 are coming soon, and majority we have completed. So by this month, we'll be closing this particular projects, particularly on these products. And thank you very much for everyone who have joined and who have listened to us. And we'll be in touch. And we are preparing a website, as I said earlier, Manak also pointed. We are preparing a website on the Udaya page, and it will be coming soon. That will be useful for all the products related to this. Those who are different in different domains of adolescents' life will be highlighted there, and how these products will be useful, how it can be interpreted, how it can be used in different platforms at local level, not only in UP and Bihar, but also other places in India also it can be used. So I will stop here, and thank you very much, the organizer. Thank you very much for all the partner organization. Thank you very much, all our listeners, those who have participated and joined this particular session. Thank you from my side. Thank you very much.